Okay, let's jump right in. That feeling when you've done something so awkward, you just want the ground to swallow you whole. We've all been there, I think. It's a universal human experience.
Definitely.
Today, we're diving deep into one particularly intense, embarrassing story. You know, the kind you replay in your head at 3 a.m.?
Oh, yeah.
But this one, it ultimately became a surprising source of laughter
Mhm.
and actually some real insight.
Yeah, we're pulling apart a 5,000-word essay called An Embarrassing Situation. And what's great about it, I think, is its clear structure. It walks you through the lead up, the actual moment of, well, peak awkwardness,
Right.
the aftermath, and then it pulls out some really valuable reflections. Think of it as maybe your shortcut to understanding the power of a truly cringeworthy moment.
So the stage for this particular story of mortification is the author's final year of high school.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a time when every social interaction feels like it carries monumental weight.
Oh, totally. High stakes. You're trying to figure out who you are, where you fit in, all under this like intense microscope of pure judgment.
Exactly. And the author paints a picture of themselves as, a pretty reliable, sort of average student, someone who really valued their good reputation,
Hmm. They weren't aiming for wild attention, just wanted to be seen as dependable, maybe well respected within their school.
which makes this central event even more, well, deliciously ironic.
Right.
It all revolves around the annual school cultural fest, a big deal, everyone's participating, wants to shine.
Right.
And our author wasn't just watching, they were co-directing a comedic skit and playing a lead role. The idea, obviously, was to boost their standing, show off some hidden talents.
But as the essay cleverly sets up, this very event, the one intended to be a personal highlight, it turned into the backdrop for a truly unforgettable, albeit mortifying experience. It's that gap, between expectation and reality that really grabs you.
So our mission here is pretty simple.
Mm,
We're not just going to laugh at the awkwardness, though, let's
yeah,
be honest. There'll probably be some of that.
probably. Yeah.
We want to dig into the real gold here. Those lessons the author unearthed about bouncing back, sort of unexpected release of humor, and the surprising strength you can find in showing your vulnerable side.
Absolutely.
So let's get into it. What was the vibe like in the weeks leading up to this cultural explosion?
Well, the essay vividly describes weeks of really intense preparation, think serious rehearsals, cram schedules, and a real sense of pressure to deliver a fantastic show.
Right.
The skit itself was a satire of school life,
Yeah.
designed to land those relatable jokes that everyone, students, teachers, parents maybe would appreciate, meant to be lighthearted fun.
And our author had a pretty specific and, I guess, crucial role in this comedic masterpiece.
Absolutely. They were playing a strict, maybe somewhat over the top eccentric teacher. The costume details really bring it to life. Imagine a fake mustache, maybe slightly askew,
Uh-huh.
thick glasses perched on the nose, and a long, dramatic overcoat meant to convey authority, but in a funny way.
You can just picture it.
hmm
So going into this high-stakes performance, it wasn't all sheer terror then. There was genuine excitement for the author.
Exactly. The essay really emphasizes this initial confidence and, interestingly, a real lack of stage fright, it seems.
Ah.
This wasn't someone dreading their moment in the spotlight. They actually saw it as a chance to really shine, especially with friends and family out there in the audience. There was this, like, palpable sense of anticipation, pride even, in what they'd prepared.
And it sounds like the final rehearsal, the one right before the big day, only amplified that feeling of, we've got this.
It did, yeah. The author recounts a seemingly flawless run-through on the very morning of the performance. No major stumbles, everyone knew their lines, their blocking.
Moved sailing.
Pretty much. And even the teacher overseeing it all offered genuine compliments on their comedic timing. Everything seemed to be aligning for a, successful show.
But, as is often the case in these stories, there's that little niggle,
Yeah.
right? That tiny detail that hints at the chaos to come. What was the subtle foreshadowing here?
That was the seemingly insignificant wardrobe mix-up. In the flurry of pre-show activity, back in the green room,
Hmm.
the author mistakenly grabbed the wrong overcoat. It was sorted out quickly, they got their own, but they mention it planted this tiny seed of unease, like a fleeting thought that maybe, just maybe, things wouldn't go entirely to plan.
Ah, classic dramatic irony. We, the audience reading it, sense something brewing,
Exactly.
and then the curtain rises on the packed auditorium.
Yeah.
What was the atmosphere like in those moments right before their skit was about to start?
The essay paints a really vivid picture. A buzzing room, just filled with the energy of students, proud teachers, expectant parents. Other performances had already happened, each getting applause.
Right, building the anticipation.
Yeah, further amplifying the anticipation for the acts still to come, including our author's comedy skit. You can almost feel that collective held breath of the audience.
Okay, the scene is set. The anticipation is sky high. Let's dive headfirst into the moment that changed everything. The incident itself. It sounds like the skit actually had a pretty smooth start.
Yes, according to the author, yeah.
Yeah.
The initial moments went off without a hitch. The audience was reacting just as they hoped, laughing at the punchlines, engaged with the characters, timing was sharp, performance flowing well.
And then comes the pivotal scene, the moment for a grand comedic entrance. Paint us a picture of what was supposed to happen.
So this was a key moment, designed for a big laugh. The author's character, the stern teacher, they were scripted to make this dramatic entrance, point accusingly at another student on stage, and launch into a hilariously sarcastic monologue.
Oh.
Meant to be a show-stopping moment, really highlighting the absurdity of the teacher's persona.
But the reality backstage shook a decidedly uncomedic term, didn't it?
It certainly did. As the author was making their way to their entrance point, the long overcoat, that crucial piece of the costume, it snagged on a loose nail, just sticking out from the backstage scenery.
Oh no, a minor hazard with major consequences, I'm guessing.
You got it. In that moment of, performance adrenaline, maybe a bit of haste,
Yeah.
the author yanked forward, and there was this loud, unmistakable rip as the coat tore, right down the center back seam.
Boof.
But the sartorial disaster didn't end there. The force of pulling on the coat also caused the poorly secured trousers to simultaneously slip down.
No.
Yeah, a true domino effect of wardrobe malfunction.
The double whammy of comedic catastrophe. So the grand entrance wasn't quite the majestic reveal they had planned there.
Understatement of the year. The author bursts onto the stage, not with theatrical authority, but with their coat flapping open like, broken wings, the fake mustache askew, just sort of clinging on.
Wow.
And their trousers plummeting towards their ankles. It was a sight no one in the audience was expecting. At all.
I can only imagine the wave of just shock that must have rippled through the audience. What was the immediate reaction?
Well, the initial reaction was apparently a beat of stunned silence, like a collective gasp.
Right.
And then, as the sheer absurdity of the spectacle registered, the auditorium just erupted in uncontrollable laughter. The author describes it as an absolute tidal wave of hysterics just echoing through the hall.
That sounds intense. What was going through the author's mind in that, frozen moment on stage?
The author describes a feeling of complete paralysis, a temporary mental blankness. Their immediate instinct was just to vanish, become invisible, but their legs seemed, turned to lead.
Oh, that feeling.
Yeah, that classic feeling of your mind going completely empty under intense, unexpected pressure.
Thankfully, a quick-thinking co-actor tried to throw a lifeline, tried to salvage things.
Yes, to their immense credit. A fellow actor on stage managed to improvise a line about the teacher perhaps having rushed to get dressed or something.
Trying to work it in.
Exactly. It was a valiant attempt to weave the unexpected wardrobe failure back into the narrative of the skit. A moment of quick comedic recovery by someone else.
But it probably didn't entirely quell the, shall we say, unscripted reactions from the audience.
Not at all. The laughter just intensified, apparently. And then came the extra layer of mortification. Someone in the crowd let out a whistle.
Oh, no.
Followed by a booming voice shouting a rather specific observation about the bright red boxer shorts adorned with cartoon ducks that were now on full display.
Cartoon ducks. Oh, the exquisite humiliations.
Yeah.
The details are what make it, aren't they?
They really are.
So what did our author do in the face of this public reveal?
Well, finally, snapping out of their stage-induced freeze, the author executed a hasty and rather undignified retreat offstage, frantically trying to hoist their trousers while clutching the torn coat around themselves. Desperate attempt to regain some shred of modesty.
Yeah.
Backstage, the immediate aftermath was apparently this surreal mix of stunned silence from some people and just outright uncontrollable laughter from others.
Oof, you can just feel that wave of post-show dread washing over the author. What was the immediate fallout like for them?
The essay describes a really powerful reluctance to face anyone, just anyone. The author retreated to the supposed sanctuary of the green room and basically barricaded themselves in there for nearly an hour,
Wow.
just dreading the sound of approaching footsteps, any interaction. The desire to simply disappear was overwhelming.
But eventually that self-imposed isolation had to be broken, I assume.
Yes, eventually their best friend tracked them down, and despite the undeniable awkwardness, managed to offer a somewhat sympathetic yet, let's face it, undeniably humorous remark about the author having definitely stolen the show.
Heh. A small crack of light, maybe.
Yeah, a hint that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of the world.
And as these kinds of stories tend to do, the tale of the disastrous entrance took on a life of its own, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The author recounts how news of the incident spread through the school with, astonishing speed. By the very next morning, it had morphed into this legendary anecdote, recounted and embellished in hallways, classrooms.
Oh dear. Nicknames.
Of course. Nicknames like the inevitable Duckman started to surface, and some classmates even began good-naturedly imitating the stage stumble.
That must have been a tough pill to swallow, especially for someone who valued their reputation so much.
It really was. Initially, the author was deeply mortified, actively avoided eye contact, strategically skipped social gatherings, generally tried to become as invisible as possible. There was a real fear of judgment, lasting ridicule.
But it sounds like the way people reacted wasn't entirely malicious. There was a crucial shift in perspective for the author, wasn't there?
Precisely. Over time, the author began to realize that the laughter, while initially painful to hear, wasn't actually rooted in cruelty. People weren't laughing at them in a mean-spirited way, but rather with them, or just at the sheer unexpected absurdity of the whole spectacle.
Ah, okay.
There was this growing understanding that it was a genuinely funny, albeit embarrassing mishap, a very human moment played out on a public stage.
And even the figures of authority, the teachers, had their own take on the comedic chaos.
Yes, there's a wonderful anecdote about one of the teachers who, instead of, reprimanding the author, actually commented on the perfect, even if entirely unintentional, comedic timing of the whole ordeal.
That's great.
That kind of reaction, finding humor in the disaster, must have been surprisingly validating, actually. Helped shift the author's own perception, too.
So what ultimately did the author glean from this intensely awkward experience? It sounds like it transcended just being a funny story to tell later. What were the deeper takeaways?
Absolutely. The author frames it as a profoundly valuable learning experience. Even though it was, undeniably ridiculous and utterly unforgettable, at its core, it was about confronting the inherent vulnerability of embarrassment. It sort of strips away the carefully constructed image we try to project, and it reveals our shared fallibility. That's a powerful, albeit uncomfortable truth.
And there's a strange sense of liberation that can come from that kind of exposure, isn't there? Like, once the worst has happened, what else is there really to fear?
Exactly that. The author describes this liberating feeling that emerged from realizing the long-term insignificance of this very public humiliation. Once you've experienced that level of awkwardness and survived, the fear of future, smaller embarrassments starts to lose its grip.
Right. It's like facing your biggest fear and realizing it wasn't fatal.
Precisely.
It also sounds like it was a masterclass in building resilience,
Well,
albeit an unintentional one.
without a doubt. The conscious decision to own the story, to actually laugh along with the retelling that, was a major turning point. By embracing the embarrassment, the author effectively diffused its negative power.
That makes sense.
And what's fascinating is that this display of vulnerability, it actually fostered more respect from their peers, not less. There's a real connection that can be forged through shared laughter at human imperfection.
That's a powerful and maybe counterintuitive lesson in itself. And it seems this experience had a ripple effect, emboldening the author to step outside their comfort zone in other areas too.
It did, yeah. The author explicitly states how this incident encouraged them to take more risks. The fear of potential failure or looking foolish had sort of diminished.
Interesting.
This newfound confidence propelled them to join the debate team, participate in another drama production, presumably less precarious, and even deliver the farewell speech at graduation, things they might have shied away from before.
Wow.
The memory of the wardrobe malfunction became this surprising source of motivation, a reminder that even the most awkward moments can be overcome.
So ultimately, it led to a profound realization about the value of authenticity over, I guess, the pursuit of some unattainable perfection.
Exactly. The author came to understand that genuine connection with others is built on shared human experience, including our flaws and imperfections, far more than on just presenting a flawless facade. The shared laughter, the ability to connect over a moment of vulnerability, created stronger, more authentic bonds.
So as we bring this deep dive to a close, what's the key message? The core insight we can extract from an embarrassing situation for our listeners.
I think the essay beautifully underscores that those moments we'd rather forget, those intensely embarrassing situations, they often hold significant and unexpected opportunities for personal growth. They can teach us profound lessons about courage, the healing power of humor, and just the fundamental shared experience of being human.
And despite the initial, cringeworthiness, it sounds like this particular incident ultimately fostered a stronger sense of community and connection for the author.
Absolutely. The shared laughter, the collective experience of witnessing something so unexpected and human, it forged this unexpected bond between the author and their peers. It's a reminder that sometimes our most awkward moments are the ones that truly connect us.
So what practical advice can we maybe offer to anyone listening who might be currently cringing at a memory or perhaps facing a potentially embarrassing situation?
The advice is simple, really, yet powerful. Lean into it. Don't try to bury it or pretend it didn't happen. Find the humor in it, even if it takes time. Share the story. You might be surprised how many people can relate. Allow those moments to become part of your story, a testament to your resilience and, well, your humanity.
A fantastic and liberating perspective. And on that note, let's leave you, our listener, with his final thought. Maybe it's not our perfect highlight reel moments that truly define us, but rather how we navigate and respond to our most spectacularly flawed ones. What's an embarrassing story you carry, and what unexpected wisdom might it be holding? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.